Whenever people hear the term non-fiction, the first thing that pops into their mind is self-improvement, biography, and all the generic stuff. But I think there are many more great, unique non-fiction books out there. Hey you beautiful people, welcome back to a new video on our channel Read, Travel, Become. I know it's been quite some time that I've uploaded a video, almost a month now. Actually, I was moving places. There's a new place which I have moved to in the US, and surprisingly this place has a beautiful library around me, the one which you see behind me. It's a library. It's a very nice space with some cozy books, some classics. So I'm gonna make my videos here. Videos are going to be regular. So let's talk about this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about some very unique non-fiction books which do not fall into the spectrum of the quintessential self-improvement or the biography books. Non-fiction has much more to it than just biographies and self-improvement books. It's not just about, business, success, how to do things. There's much more things in the non-fiction category, and the recommendations that I'm going to give in this video are going to be super unique and fantastic. In the videos that I'm going to make from now on, the last book is going to be my personal favorite recommendation. It's going to be always at the end. So make sure you watch the video till the end. You may never know which thought or fact may resonate with you and change the course of your life. So let's get started. The first book on the list is The Snow Leopard by Peter Matthiessen. So it's an old book from the 1900s, and it's actually a travel book. This book came at a time when travel writing was very popular. If you have heard about the endurance mission of Ernest Shackleton, which was like a crew of explorers who went to the Antarctic, this book is also on a similar line. But this author, this writer Peter, along with his biologist environmentalist friend, they both went to the upper Himalayas on a Tibetan plateau. They basically wanted to research on a particular type of blue Himalayan sheep, and they also wanted to spot the snow leopard. During that time, very few people in the world had spotted the snow leopard. So these two people went out on an expedition to find out about that snow leopard. Now what happened on this expedition, how did these people travel, is all about the book. But the differentiating factor, the fact that this is a very popular book and a very unique non-fiction book, is that this book is also a spiritual awakening kind of a book. It's not just travel outside, but it's also travel inside. While Peter was traveling, he has written his feelings about loss, sorrow, deep melancholy, and how an external environment has helped to refine his internal environment. It's a deep meditative philosophy book in a way, but written beautifully. Like the whole concept of finding a rare animal, while he was on that expedition, he actually found himself, which according to him was more precious than finding the snow leopard. What happens is the book forms the crux of the book. Very unique non-fiction book, you must read. Next on the list is one of my favorite non-fiction books of all time, so much so that I've made a separate video, a full-length separate video on this particular non-fiction book. The book is called An Immense World by Ed Yong. This book talks about animal senses. We always feel that humans are at the top of the chain and we have conquered the world. We know so much about the environment, about the world. But this writer has specifically researched about animals and how they have different kinds of senses. So humans just have 5 senses. Some animals can hear different sounds. Some animals can see different colors, see different wavelengths. They have extremely different sense of communicating with the environment. How do these interactions happen, and how we are just experiencing a slice of reality forms the crux of this book. If you want to know more about this book, please find that video which I have uploaded. It's a beautiful book. I can't stop recommending it. In 2023, it was one of the best books I read. So go ahead and watch that video if you want to know more about this book. Next on the list is again one of my favorite non-fiction books of 2023. The book is An Insomniac City by Bill Hayes. Bill Hayes has suddenly become one of the best writers that I've ever read. I've read a lot of books in my course of reading journey, but Bill Hayes has something very beautiful to him. His writing is so simple. It's stripped of all the heavy literature that you want to expect. It's just simple, beautiful life. He reminds me a lot of Ruskin Bond with his writing. Insomniac City is basically his personal account about New York City. He was experiencing insomnia because of some personal reasons which you would find out in the book, and he basically went out on the streets of New York and talked to people, just observed people, simple people, regular people. He was not looking out for people with extraordinary abilities. He was just looking out for normal people and trying to learn about their stories in New York City. If you have a teeny tiny fascination with New York City, its iconic nature, its iconic architecture, its people, you should definitely read this book. It hits on a different level. If you have, some kind of an inclination towards New York City, it's like a love letter to New York City in many ways. So yeah, it's a beautiful book. It's not exactly a memoir. It's not exactly a personal story. It's just his observations. It's just his musings basically. It's basically a musings. Next, there is a very popular book which which you all might have heard and many of you might have read, A Short History of Nearly Everything. Super fun book if you want to learn just general knowledge about the world, learn about science, astronomy, biology in the most fun way possible, then this book is for you. Bill Bryson is known for his writing. I love his other book, A Walk in the Woods. He's a fantastic writer. Like if he can make you learn science in the best way possible, I think that's a great skill to have for any author, because he just makes science so much fun, so much interesting. I remember when I first picked up this book, I was so dragged into the world of history, sciences, and astronomy. I remember after reading this book that I had picked up Sapiens, which I appreciated even more because I had got a fun background and a fun pretext to reading Sapiens. So if you want to learn about history in the most fun way possible, just pick up this book. You won't be disappointed. Many a times it's hilarious, many a times it's amusing, and it's written in a very light-hearted way. Basically, you would love it. Sometimes it becomes sciencey, but in a fun way, and the only problem is it's a bit long, so it's not meant to be read in one shot. It's just like a book which you can have on your coffee table when you're just browsing around a chapter here and there. It's that kind of a book. So yeah, a very, very unique non-fiction book in my opinion. Next on the list is non-fiction book which almost reads like a thriller fiction book, which is like an unputdownable page turner. I surprisingly had this book lying around when I came into this room. The book is The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. This is a non-fiction book, but when you read it, you would feel that you are actually reading a spy thriller which is written by both Dan Brown and Agatha Christie. It talks about the 1893 World's Fair which happened in Chicago. So apparently one of the world's best architects came together to design this World Fair where many eminent people were invited. It was like a big show during that time, and during this World Fair, the world's first Ferris wheel was also invented. It's like a quintessential Chicago thing about the World's Fair. And in this fair, there was also a serial killer, H.H. Holmes, which you might have heard of. He's a very popular pop culture figure. He was also active during this time. So there are two parallel stories running in this book. One is of the architect who's designing the World Fair, and the other is of the serial killer. How these two stories intertwine is basically the book. This is a page turner in most ways and one of the best thriller writers in a non-fiction category, you could say. You won't be disappointed. It has got a bunch of awards. It's, I think, made into a lot of documentaries. It's gotten a, it's like the National Book Finalist Award and stuff like that. Great recommendation. Very, very unique read if you want to learn more about history, but like in the most fiction way possible. Next unique non-fiction recommendation is again very, very unique. I was actually talking to a historian one day and we started talking about books, and he mentioned this book to me, and apparently this book is very popular in America. Many people know about this particular incident which happened. The book is called Give Me My Father's Body, The Life of Minik, the New York Eskimo. So what happened was, again, this is during that time, late 1800s, during which many Westerners were going out in the world trying to figure out how other cultures work, finding new lands. This was during that time. There were a bunch of explorers, American explorers, New York explorers in particular, who went to Greenland and they found a tribe of people, and there was a meteor which had struck this particular land. This meteor was used by the local people to hunt, to make tools and a bunch of other things. So these Westerners decided to bring that meteor back to New York, and the process of bringing the meteor to New York, these Westerners also got some local Greenland people to New York to study how their culture is, to study their habits. So think about it, like it's a different world altogether in which they live. It's extremely cold, it's sparsely populated, their primary source of food is hunting, they have a different culture, they don't speak the language, they're like a different form of human beings in a way. So these Westerners brought this family down to New York just to study them. In this family, there was a little boy called Minik. So obviously, naturally, these people couldn't survive the conditions which were there in America because everything is different, right? So as some years passed, most of the family died. Some of the family was sent back, and this little boy Minik, who became very popular later on, was just left all alone in New York. Some foster family took him in, they took care of him, but that foster family also was not very well to do. So in a couple of years, that boy had to struggle a lot. As that boy was growing up, he forgot everything about Greenland. When he became a man, he started questioning his identity, his roots, his cultural roots. Where did he come from? And that's when he found out about his cultural heritage. He found out about how he had been brought to New York by these Westerners, and he started this whole investigation. He started this whole plea to, find my parents where they are right now. And later on, they found out that the parents of this particular boy had been used in the museums as well. They had been shown on display. They actually don't know where exactly the remains were. Some remains were here and there. So this boy became particularly torn with this particular information. He went back to Greenland to study where he came from. He came back, and for all of this, there was a book written. The book is called Give Me My Father's Body. So if you want to know more about different cultures, how different people think, how different different tribes originated and how these Westerners exploited them in a way. If you guys have seen Killers of the Flower Moon, which Martin Scorsese celebrated on a grand scale of how some people exploited local tribal native Indians. In the same way, this book is also a very, very relevant read if you want to know more about history from this particular lens of how colonialism happened, of how people were just exploiting natural tribes. This way, this book is a very, very cultural read. If you are interested, remotely interested in these kind of things, do give it a try. You won't be disappointed. The plot is very, very important. And the last recommendation for this particular video is my strongest recommendation in this video, the mystery book, as I like to call it. The book is The Library Book by Susan Orleans, which I think every reader should read, particularly readers, particularly people who love books. This book is about the fire which took place in LA, particularly in the LA Central Library, the public library in LA, which was like a huge library. A big fire broke out in this library in 1986. Susan Orleans has written this book to find out why did that fire take place. In that fire, thousands and thousands of books were destroyed. Very, very important manuals, which are rare manuals, rare manuscripts were destroyed. Almost 400,000 to 700,000 books were burned down, and a lot of manuscripts were forever lost in time. Now, where does Susan Orleans come into play? She definitely has an investigative angle to this book as to who started this fire, why did this fire happen, because there was a conspiracy theory during that time that there was a stage actor who wanted to be popular and he started that fire. But apart from this lens, this book will talk about how some people were so attached to the library. She has interviewed librarians, she has interviewed people who used to visit that library, she has interviewed people who were frequent visitors to this library, and just the love of books and the deep sense of loss that these people feel because of the library being burned down. She's talked about all of that. So if you are remotely a reader, if you are remotely interested in book, if you like to surround yourself with books, right, like I am surrounded right now. I love being surrounded by books, and it gives me a sense of, comfort. It gives me a sense of, just some inexplicable feeling. You should read this book because she has written about books in such a beautiful way. She's talked about how different horizons are experienced through books, how libraries are such an integral part of a civilization. I just resonated with her idea a lot because even I believe, like, in today's times when people are just, totally into social media and, non-reading stuff basically, where they're not much interested into literature per se, but there are people like me who are trying their level best to make reading fun, to make reading cool, making people believe in the power of reading, because it's just one of the most beautiful things you can experience. I can assure you that, like, you're reading the book in one world, but your heart would be beating in some other world. I can assure you that. If you are interested in this space, you should read this book. You would start appreciating the power of books, the power of knowledge, the power of literature, and how important it is to preserve literature, to talk about literature, talk about books. But again, this book is written in a different way. It's not exactly a philosophy book or anything. It's like an investigative book about this particular incident, but I just like the meta commentary that she has around it about the love of books. So yeah, that was the list, guys. I hope you like these recommendations, you read these books, and I'm very, very sorry I'm uploading the videos very late, but from now on I'm gonna be consistent again. I know 1 month is a long time for me to not upload videos. I have been reading books, very interesting books, and there are many interesting videos lined up, so stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching this video till here. That's all for this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.